Dr. Sclodnick studies the contributions of memory and learning to visual attention in humans. He has a passion for science and believes that the future of humanity depends on scientific thinking. To that end, he regularly takes on teaching and leadership roles that involve interacting with people and supporting their academic development. Ben is also the founder of the popular Psychology Live public science talks, hosted locally at Fairweather Brewery. Outside the lab, you can often find him correcting people's grammar, riding his motorcycle, or playing the guitar. So, without further ado, Dr. Sclodnick, and I'm going to take my paper so he can't see my grammatical mistakes.
I'm going to talk to you about measuring attentional control. So, whether you're reading, driving, sitting in a lecture theater, maybe witnessing a crime, or even just scrolling on your phone, attention determines what we see, what we remember, and what we act on. If we want to understand human behavior at large, and of course I think we should, we need to understand the factors that control attention. So let's see if we can identify some of those factors together. We'll start with a demo. Everyone look at the screen. Okay. First thing I want you to notice is that your attention is probably drawn to the spiky explosion thing in the bottom corner of the figure. Okay? We call this saliency-driven attention. Things in the visual field that are physically distinct gain automatic priority over attention and draw our attention to it. Okay? That's why we put brake lights on the back of vehicles and why police cars are so annoying. Okay? The second thing I want you to notice is a little more subtle. Take a look for one of those blue boomerangs. And once you've found one, notice how the other blue boomerangs in the display seem to stand out a little bit more than they did before. Okay? We call this experience-driven attention. And it shows us that paying attention to something in one moment biases attention towards those things in future moments. And already we can put together a little model of attention here. We have physical saliency, experience-driven attention, and of course, the thing that you get to control, your goal-driven attention, your conscious control. It was you that looked for the blue boomerangs, right? Okay. What I'm interested in are the effect of experience on attention, these experience-driven effects. As a field, we're realizing that these effects are ubiquitous across our behaviors, and they're also challenging to measure. And they're challenging to measure because they're often confounded with our goals. Okay? And so, take a look again for one of those blue boomerangs. Okay? Now you have your conscious goals driving you towards the blue boomerang, but you also have the influence of experience guiding you towards the blue boomerang from having just looked for one. And so already you can see that you have two attentional factors driving your attention to the blue boomerang, and it's difficult to disentangle those effects in an experiment. Okay, so this is me. My whole program of research is based around finding clever methods to disambiguate the role of experience-driven attention from goal-driven attention. And I'm going to give you an example of how we might do that. So in my tasks, I typically use a visual search task where the target is defined by physical saliency. It's the odd color, the odd one out. And this target could be blue, or the target could be orange. And your task as a participant is to find the target, the odd color, and then just indicate which corner of the diamond is missing with the key press. Then, in the context of an experiment, we can get people prepared and ready to expect blue things. We say, get ready for blue, right? And so we have blue targets and orange targets for our search task, but we fixed goal-driven attention. And so we should be able to measure an effect of goal-driven attention here. And sure enough, if we look at response time to blue targets and orange targets, you can see that people are faster to respond to blue targets than they are to orange targets, okay? And so that's all well and dandy. But of course, in this experiment, people are preparing for blue on every trial of the experiment. We know when people repeatedly prioritize the same thing, well, that's what leads to those pesky experience-driven effects on attention, right? And so to control for the effect of experience, what we need is another group of participants that prepare for blue on one trial, prepare for orange on the next trial, prepare for blue on the next trial, and orange, and so on and so forth, to control for the effect of repeatedly preparing for the same thing over and over again. When we do that, we can see that our effect of preparing for blue gets smaller when we intermix preparation, right? On the left is larger because that represents the influence of both goal-driven attention and experience-driven attention. Where on the right, we've controlled for experience-driven attention. And that difference is a measure of experience-driven attention on performance. And So that's a sneak peek of how we can use some clever methods to differentiate the influences of experience and goal-driven attention on attention. And this is critical because whether you're a radiologist who's repeatedly scanning X-rays for particular blotches, if we want to understand that behavior, we need to understand the factors that control attention. And that means we need to understand a way to measure the effective experience on control. And the same is true for the tourist in London who's about to walk out onto the road looking the wrong way. And the same is true for any of us who find ourselves repeatedly battling social media for control over our attention. If we want to make ground on understanding these behaviors and making a difference, we need to understand how to measure the factors that control attention, starting with the role of experience. Thank you.